Millionaire saw a poor mechanic studying medicine during his break, but he never imagined what she would do for him. The sound of a Ferrari's engine purring to a stop would usually turn heads, but on this quiet Tuesday afternoon, nobody was there to notice except one person who wasn't supposed to be seen. Victoria Sterling stepped out of her gleaming red Ferrari 488 GTB, her designer heels clicking against the concrete floor of Martinez Auto Repair. The 33-year-old tech entrepreneur had built her fortune from nothing, transforming a small app idea into a multi-billion-dollar empire. Today, wrapped in a form-fitting orange dress that cost more than most people's monthly salary, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had learned to navigate both boardrooms and the complexities of sudden wealth. The repair shop felt eerily silent. She had called ahead, confirming her appointment for the mysterious engine light that had been flickering intermittently. Her assistant had assured her this was the best Ferrari specialist in the city, despite its modest appearance. Victoria glanced at her diamond-encrusted watch. Exactly noon. She had scheduled this during her lunch break, expecting efficient service that matched her precisely organized life. But the main garage stood empty. No mechanics in sight, no sounds of tools clanging, no radio playing in the background. Even the front office appeared deserted, with only a handwritten sign reading "Back in 30 minutes" taped to the window. Victoria felt a familiar twinge of frustration. In her world, punctuality wasn't just preferred, it was essential. Time was money, and every minute spent waiting was a minute stolen from building her empire. She was about to call her assistant to reschedule when she noticed something unusual through a side window. In the small parking area behind the building, partially hidden by a chain-link fence, sat a figure hunched over what appeared to be a pile of books. The scene seemed so out of place in this industrial setting that Victoria found herself drawn to investigate. Pushing through a side door, she discovered a young man completely absorbed in his studies. Marcus Rodriguez, 30 years old, with calloused hands that spoke of years of honest labor, sat on an overturned crate surrounded by medical textbooks. His weathered work clothes were pristine despite the grease stains that told stories of countless repairs. Beside him lay a brown paper bag containing what looked like a simple sandwich, his lunch break meal. The contrast was striking and immediately touching. Here was someone using his precious break time not to rest, but to chase dreams that seemed impossibly distant from his current reality. Victoria recognized something in his focused determination that reminded her of her own early days, when she would code late into the night after her day job, fueled by nothing but ambition and instant ramen. Marcus was so engrossed in a chapter about cardiovascular anatomy that he didn't notice her approach until her shadow fell across his textbook. When he looked up, startled, Victoria saw eyes that held the same hunger for knowledge she remembered from her own journey. Without hesitation, he began gathering his books, apologizing for not hearing the bell and explaining that he was the only mechanic on duty. The scene that unfolded next would change both their lives forever. Marcus didn't ask questions about why she was there alone or complain about his interrupted lunch. Instead, he simply stood up, brushed off his clothes, and asked what he could do to help. There was something in his immediate willingness to serve, despite being on his break, that struck Victoria profoundly. In her world of scheduled meetings and transactional relationships, genuine kindness had become increasingly rare. As Marcus walked toward her Ferrari, his eyes lit up with genuine appreciation for the engineering marvel before him. He circled the vehicle with the careful attention of someone who truly understood and respected fine machinery. This wasn't just another job to him, it was an opportunity to work with automotive artistry. What happened in the next few hours would demonstrate how a single moment of human connection can transform destinies in ways neither person could have imagined. If this story is touching your heart already, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more inspiring stories that celebrate the power of human kindness. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is there. We love connecting with our global family of viewers who believe in the magic of unexpected connections. Marcus approached the Ferrari with the reverence of someone who understood that he was about to work on more than just a machine. He was handling someone's dreams made tangible. His first step was a thorough visual inspection, walking around the vehicle with careful attention to detail that impressed Victoria immediately. She had taken her car to several high-end dealerships before, where technicians often rushed through diagnostics, eager to move on to the next expensive repair bill. But Marcus moved differently. He treated her Ferrari as if it were a patient requiring careful examination, his medical training subtly influencing his mechanical approach. When he opened the hood, Victoria was struck by how his entire demeanor changed. The shy, apologetic student from the parking lot transformed into a confident professional who clearly knew his craft. His hands moved with practiced precision, checking fluid levels, examining belts, and listening to the engine with an almost supernatural ability to detect irregularities. It was clear that despite his dreams of becoming a doctor, Marcus had mastered the art of automotive diagnosis. The mysterious engine light that had been plaguing Victoria's Ferrari for weeks revealed its secrets under Marcus's methodical investigation. Using a combination of computerized diagnostic tools and old-fashioned mechanical intuition, he traced the problem to a faulty oxygen sensor that had been triggering false readings. It was a relatively simple fix, but one that required genuine skill to identify correctly. As Marcus worked, Victoria found herself observing not just his technical competence, but his character. He explained each step of the process in terms she could understand, never talking down to her or using complexity to justify unnecessary charges. When he discovered that the sensor could be cleaned and recalibrated rather than replaced, potentially saving her hundreds of dollars, he didn't hesitate to recommend the more economical approach. This honesty struck Victoria deeply. In her business world, she had grown accustomed to vendors who saw her wealth as an opportunity to inflate prices and add unnecessary services. Yet here was a mechanic who actively worked to save her money, even when it meant less profit for himself. The integrity he displayed was becoming increasingly rare in her experience. While the sensor underwent its cleaning process, Marcus returned to his textbooks, apologizing for the delay, but explaining that he was preparing for his medical school entrance exams. Victoria learned that he had been working as a mechanic for 8 years, saving every possible dollar toward his education fund. His dream was to become a doctor, specializing in emergency medicine, inspired by his desire to help people during their most vulnerable moments. The parallel between healing cars and healing people wasn't lost on either of them. Marcus spoke passionately about how his mechanical work had taught him patience, precision, and problem-solving skills that he believed would translate well to medical practice. His ability to diagnose complex automotive problems had given him confidence that he could master medical diagnosis as well. Victoria watched as Marcus worked with a dedication that transcended mere professionalism. Even though this was technically his lunch break and he could have easily rescheduled her appointment, he gave her car his complete attention. His commitment to excellence, regardless of the circumstances, reminded her of her own work ethic during the early days of building her company. When the repair was completed, Marcus started the Ferrari and listened carefully to ensure the engine ran smoothly. The mysterious light remained off, and the car's performance had noticeably improved. He had solved in 2 hours what other mechanics had failed to address in multiple visits. The total cost was remarkably reasonable, a fraction of what she had been quoted elsewhere. As Victoria prepared to pay, she noticed Marcus carefully washing his hands with a thoroughness that spoke to his medical aspirations. Even in a garage environment, he maintained standards of cleanliness that would serve him well in a hospital setting. Everything about his approach suggested someone who was already thinking like the doctor he hoped to become. The gratitude in Marcus's eyes when she handed him payment was genuine and touching. He thanked her not just for her business, but for her patience and understanding about the lunch break interruption. His humility and appreciation for what others might consider routine customer service revealed a character that had been shaped by genuine hardship and real dreams. What Victoria didn't yet realize was that this encounter was about to become the catalyst for a decision that would change both their lives in ways neither could have imagined. As Victoria drove away from the repair shop, her Ferrari purring perfectly for the first time in weeks, she found herself unable to stop thinking about Marcus and the scene she had witnessed in that small parking lot. The image of him surrounded by medical textbooks during his lunch break haunted her throughout the afternoon. She had built her fortune by recognizing potential and opportunity where others saw only obstacles, and something about Marcus's situation triggered every entrepreneurial instinct she possessed. But this wasn't about business. This was about something far more personal and profound. That evening, alone in her penthouse apartment overlooking the city, Victoria researched the cost of medical education. The numbers were staggering. Even at state universities, the total expense for a medical degree approached $300,000 when including tuition, living expenses, and lost income from years of study. For someone earning a mechanic's wages, such figures must seem impossible to overcome. She thought about her own journey from struggle to success. Victoria had grown up in a modest household where her parents worked multiple jobs to make ends meet. Her path to wealth had been paved with 18-hour days, countless rejections, and moments when giving up seemed like the only rational choice. She remembered the crushing weight of financial pressure and how it could make dreams feel impossibly distant. But Victoria had been fortunate in ways that Marcus wasn't. She had lived during the early days of the tech boom, when a brilliant idea and relentless execution could still catapult someone from poverty to prosperity relatively quickly. The medical field offered no such shortcuts. It demanded years of expensive education, followed by even more years of training at minimal wages. For someone without family wealth or connections, the path Marcus had chosen required not just intelligence and dedication, but almost superhuman perseverance. The more Victoria considered Marcus's situation, the more she admired his commitment. He could have chosen easier paths, could have accepted that his current life was sufficient, could have let the dream of becoming a doctor fade into a comfortable fantasy. Instead, he was grinding away at his studies during lunch breaks, saving money dollar by dollar, refusing to abandon his vision of a different future. Over the following days, Victoria found herself returning to Martinez Auto Repair under various pretexts. Her car needed an oil change, then a tire rotation, then a mysterious noise investigation. Each visit revealed more about Marcus's character and circumstances. She learned that he sent money to his elderly mother, that he had turned down higher-paying jobs in other cities to stay close to family, that he studied until midnight every night after 10-hour workdays. During one visit, Victoria overheard Marcus on the phone with someone from a medical school admissions office. The conversation was brief and clearly disappointing. His grades were excellent, his test scores competitive, but the financial aid package was insufficient. He would need to defer admission for another year, maybe two, to accumulate enough savings. The resignation in his voice after hanging up was heartbreaking. That conversation crystallized something in Victoria's mind. She had built her wealth not just through smart business decisions, but through the kindness and support of others who had believed in her potential. A mentor who had given her first real break, an investor who had taken a chance on an unproven entrepreneur, a teacher who had stayed after class to help her understand complex concepts. All these people had contributed to her success in ways that couldn't be measured in dollars alone. Victoria realized that she was now in a position to be that person for someone else. Marcus possessed all the qualities that predicted success in medicine: intelligence, dedication, empathy, and an unshakable work ethic. The only thing standing between him and his dreams was money, and money was something Victoria had in abundance. But she also understood that approaching this situation required delicacy. Marcus was proud, hard-working, and independent. Any offer of help would need to respect his dignity while addressing his need. The wrong approach could backfire, causing him to refuse assistance out of pride or misplaced obligation. The solution began forming in Victoria's mind, not as charity, but as an investment in human potential. She had spent her career identifying promising opportunities and providing the resources needed to realize their potential. Marcus represented the kind of opportunity she had always sought, someone with exceptional ability who needed only the right support to achieve extraordinary things. The decision that would transform both their lives was beginning to take shape. Victoria returned to the repair shop on a Thursday afternoon, her heart pounding with nervous anticipation as she prepared to have the most important conversation of both their lives. She had rehearsed various approaches, but when she saw Marcus again, bent over another car's engine with the same meticulous attention he had shown her Ferrari, all her prepared speeches evaporated. The simple truth was that she wanted to help. And sometimes the most profound gestures begin with the most straightforward words. Marcus greeted her with the same warm professionalism she had come to expect, asking about her Ferrari's performance and whether she needed any additional service. Victoria assured him that her car was running beautifully, then asked if they could talk privately. The request clearly puzzled him, but he guided her to a small office area away from the main garage floor. What followed was a conversation that neither would ever forget. Victoria began by telling Marcus how impressed she had been with his work, not just as a mechanic, but as a person striving to better himself. She spoke about her own journey from modest beginnings to business success, emphasizing how others had helped her along the way. She explained that she believed strongly in investing in people with exceptional potential. Then came the offer that would change everything. Victoria wanted to pay for Marcus's medical education completely and without conditions, not as a loan requiring repayment, but as an investment in someone she believed would make a significant difference in the world. She had researched the costs, understood the full scope of what medical school would require, and was prepared to cover everything from tuition to living expenses. Marcus's initial response was stunned silence. He stared at Victoria as if trying to process words that couldn't possibly mean what they seemed to mean. When he finally found his voice, it was to protest that such generosity was impossible to accept, that he couldn't allow a relative stranger to make such an enormous sacrifice on his behalf. But Victoria was prepared for this reaction. She explained that this wasn't sacrifice, it was opportunity. She had more money than she could spend in several lifetimes, while he had the drive and ability to save countless lives as a doctor. The mathematics of the situation weren't complicated. Her excess wealth could transform his dreams into reality, and through him, benefit thousands of future patients. The conversation continued for over an hour, with Marcus raising every possible objection and Victoria patiently addressing each concern. He worried about creating an obligation he could never repay. She explained that the only repayment she wanted was for him to become the best doctor he could be. He questioned whether he was worthy of such an investment. She pointed to his dedication, his character, and his obvious competence as evidence of his worthiness. Gradually, as the reality of the offer sank in, Marcus began to envision a future that had seemed impossible just hours earlier. He could start medical school in the fall semester rather than waiting years to save sufficient funds. He could focus entirely on his studies without the crushing pressure of financial worry. His dream of helping others through medicine could begin immediately rather than remaining indefinitely deferred. The emotional weight of the moment overwhelmed them both. Marcus, who had spent years maintaining rigid control over his expectations to protect himself from disappointment, found himself facing the possibility that his deepest hopes might actually be achievable. Victoria, who had grown accustomed to the loneliness that often accompanies great wealth, discovered the profound joy that comes from using her resources to genuinely transform someone's life. When Marcus finally accepted her offer, the tears in his eyes reflected not just gratitude, but the sudden release of years of accumulated pressure and worry. Victoria felt a satisfaction deeper than any business success had ever provided. This wasn't about profit margins or market dominance. This was about human connection and the power of one person to lift another toward their highest potential. They spent the remaining time discussing practical details: which medical schools Marcus would apply to, how the payments would be structured, what support he would need during the transition from mechanic to medical student. Victoria insisted on covering not just educational expenses, but also the income he would lose by leaving his job, ensuring that his family responsibilities could continue to be met. As they concluded their conversation, both realized that something profound had shifted between them. They were no longer customer and service provider, but partners in an extraordinary journey toward a dream that had suddenly become attainable. The weeks following Victoria's life-changing offer transformed into a whirlwind of applications, interviews, and preparations that Marcus had never dared imagine would become reality. Victoria proved to be not just a financial benefactor, but an invaluable advisor who brought her business expertise to bear on Marcus's medical school application process. She helped him understand how to present his unique background as an asset rather than a liability, showing admissions committees that his years as a mechanic had developed precisely the skills that would make him an exceptional doctor. Problem-solving under pressure, attention to detail, the ability to work with his hands, and deep empathy for people facing stressful situations. Together, they crafted application essays that told Marcus's story in compelling terms. His experience diagnosing complex automotive problems translated directly to medical diagnosis. His years of explaining technical issues to worried car owners had honed his ability to communicate complex information clearly and compassionately. His dedication to studying during lunch breaks and late nights demonstrated the work ethic essential for surviving medical school. The transformation in Marcus was remarkable to witness. The weight of financial impossibility had been lifted from his shoulders, allowing his natural intelligence and enthusiasm to flourish fully for the first time in years. Victoria watched him evolve from someone who spoke of his dreams tentatively, as distant hopes, to someone who discussed his future plans with confidence and excitement. Medical school interviews became opportunities for Marcus to shine rather than ordeals to endure. His genuine passion for helping others, combined with his unique background and newfound confidence, impressed admissions committees at every school he visited. Victoria accompanied him to several interviews, not as an influencer, but as moral support, staying quietly in the background while Marcus proved himself on his own merits. The responses began arriving in March, and they exceeded everyone's hopes. Marcus was accepted to 4 excellent medical schools, including 2 with outstanding emergency medicine programs. The choice ultimately came down to a state university with a strong reputation for training compassionate doctors who served underserved communities. Exactly the kind of physician Marcus hoped to become. As Marcus prepared to transition from mechanic to medical student, Victoria insisted on addressing every detail that might otherwise cause stress or distraction. She arranged for a modest apartment near the medical school, ensuring Marcus could focus on his studies without worrying about housing costs. She established accounts to cover textbooks, equipment, and living expenses, making certain that financial concerns would never interfere with his education. But Victoria's support extended beyond mere financial assistance. She became Marcus's champion and friend, someone who believed in his potential even when he doubted himself. During moments when the magnitude of the change overwhelmed him, she reminded him of the qualities she had observed that first day: his dedication, his integrity, his natural healing touch with both machines and people. The final day at Martinez Auto Repair was emotionally charged for everyone involved. Marcus's colleagues, who had watched him study during every break for years, celebrated his departure with genuine joy and pride. The shop owner, initially skeptical of Marcus's medical ambitions, admitted that he had never seen anyone more deserving of success. Victoria arrived that afternoon to find Marcus cleaning out his toolbox, carefully organizing the implements that had served him well for 8 years. She watched him handle each tool with respect, understanding that they represented not just his past, but the foundation upon which his future was being built. The precision and care he showed in organizing his workspace would serve him well in operating rooms yet to come. As they loaded the final boxes into Victoria's car, Marcus paused to look back at the repair shop that had been his second home for so many years. The building looked exactly the same, but everything had changed. The young man leaving bore little resemblance to the one who had arrived 8 years earlier, fresh out of technical school with modest dreams and limited horizons. The drive to Marcus's new apartment near the medical school was filled with comfortable conversation about the future. They discussed his class schedule, study strategies, and long-term specialization plans, but underneath the practical details lay something deeper. A friendship forged in the most unusual circumstances, based on mutual respect and shared commitment to making the most of an extraordinary opportunity. As they unloaded Marcus's belongings in front of his new home, both realized that this moment marked not just the end of one chapter, but the beginning of an adventure that would transform not only Marcus's life, but Victoria's understanding of what wealth could truly accomplish. Medical school proved to be everything Marcus had dreamed and more challenging than he had ever imagined. But Victoria's support provided the foundation that allowed him to flourish in ways that surprised even his most optimistic expectations. The first semester overwhelmed many of Marcus's classmates, who struggled with the sheer volume of information and the pressure of constant evaluation. But Marcus approached his studies with the same methodical precision he had once applied to automotive diagnosis. His background as a mechanic, initially viewed by some as unconventional, quickly proved to be an extraordinary advantage in the medical environment. Anatomy classes, which intimidated many students, felt natural to Marcus. Years of understanding complex mechanical systems had prepared him to grasp the intricate relationships between organs, vessels, and tissues. When professors explained cardiovascular circulation, Marcus visualized it as a complex hydraulic system. Respiratory function reminded him of sophisticated air intake mechanisms. The human body, he discovered, was the ultimate machine, one he was uniquely prepared to understand and repair. Victoria maintained regular contact throughout Marcus's first year, not as an overseer monitoring her investment, but as a friend genuinely interested in his progress and well-being. Their weekly phone calls became highlights of Marcus's demanding schedule. She celebrated his victories, the first perfect score on a biochemistry exam, his selection for a prestigious anatomy teaching assistant position, his natural leadership in study groups. But Victoria's most valuable support came during Marcus's moments of doubt. Medical school tested not just intellectual capacity, but emotional resilience. There were nights when the material seemed impossible to master, when Marcus wondered whether he truly belonged among classmates who had been preparing for medical careers since childhood. During these vulnerable moments, Victoria reminded him of the qualities she had witnessed that first day: his natural empathy, his problem-solving abilities, his dedication to serving others. The transformation in Marcus was visible to everyone around him. His confidence grew with each successfully completed module. His study group colleagues began seeking his help with complex concepts, recognizing his unique ability to break down complicated systems into understandable components. Professors noticed his exceptional preparation and thoughtful questions during lectures. By his second year, Marcus had not only caught up with his traditionally prepared classmates, but had begun to distinguish himself as someone with exceptional potential. His combination of mechanical intuition, genuine compassion, and tireless work ethic created a skill set that impressed both faculty and fellow students. He was selected for competitive research opportunities and invited to present his findings at student conferences. Victoria watched this transformation with profound satisfaction. The shy mechanic she had discovered studying during his lunch break had evolved into a confident medical student who commanded respect through competence and character. But success hadn't changed Marcus's fundamental nature. He remained humble, hard-working, and deeply grateful for the opportunity he had been given. The friendship between Victoria and Marcus deepened during these medical school years. They discovered shared interests beyond their initial connection. Both loved hiking, appreciated good coffee, and enjoyed long conversations about everything from literature to social issues. Victoria found in Marcus someone who knew her story, but treated her as a friend rather than a wealthy benefactor. Marcus found in Victoria a mentor who challenged him to think bigger about his potential impact on the world. Their relationship also evolved Victoria's understanding of wealth and responsibility. Through Marcus's journey, she began to see her financial resources not as possessions to be accumulated, but as tools for creating positive change. His success inspired her to establish a foundation focused on supporting promising individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds who needed only opportunity to achieve extraordinary things. As Marcus approached his third year and the beginning of clinical rotations, both he and Victoria knew that the most challenging and exciting phase of his medical education was about to begin. The theoretical foundation had been laid. Now came the test of applying his knowledge in real hospital settings with actual patients whose lives would depend on his growing expertise. The young man who would soon walk hospital corridors as a medical student bore little resemblance to the mechanic Victoria had met years earlier. Yet the core qualities that had first impressed her, compassion, dedication, and an unshakable commitment to helping others, remained unchanged and had only grown stronger through the challenges of medical education. Marcus's entry into clinical rotations marked the moment when theoretical knowledge met real human suffering, and it was here that his true calling as a healer became unmistakably clear to everyone around him. His first rotation in internal medicine placed him on a busy hospital ward where patients struggled with complex chronic conditions. Many of his fellow medical students felt overwhelmed by the human suffering they encountered, but Marcus seemed naturally equipped to handle the emotional challenges alongside the intellectual ones. His years of customer service as a mechanic had taught him how to remain calm under pressure while maintaining genuine empathy for people in distress. The attending physicians quickly noticed Marcus's exceptional bedside manner. While other students sometimes seemed mechanical in their patient interactions, Marcus brought a natural warmth and authenticity that put even the most anxious patients at ease. He had an intuitive understanding that healing involved more than just medical intervention. It required human connection, clear communication, and genuine care for the person behind the illness. Victoria visited the hospital during Marcus's internal medicine rotation and witnessed firsthand the transformation she had helped make possible. She watched from a distance as Marcus examined an elderly patient, explaining each step of the process with patience and respect. His gentle competence reminded her of how he had handled her Ferrari years earlier, with careful attention, professional skill, and genuine care for achieving the best possible outcome. The emergency medicine rotation, which came in Marcus's fourth year, revealed his true specialty calling. The fast-paced environment where split-second decisions could mean the difference between life and death seemed tailor-made for someone with his background. Years of diagnosing automotive emergencies had prepared him for the pressure and complexity of medical emergencies. His ability to remain focused and methodical while chaos swirled around him impressed even veteran emergency physicians. During one particularly challenging night shift, Marcus helped save the life of a construction worker who had suffered a massive heart attack. The patient's condition was critical, and the treatment required precise coordination between multiple team members. Marcus's mechanical understanding of systems under stress translated perfectly to understanding cardiovascular collapse and recovery. His suggestions during the resuscitation effort showed medical thinking that belied his student status. Victoria learned about this success through a phone call that captured Marcus's excitement and exhaustion in equal measure. He described the intense satisfaction of seeing a patient who had been close to death walk out of the hospital days later, restored to health and family. The experience confirmed what Victoria had suspected from their first meeting. Marcus possessed not just the intelligence to become a doctor, but the emotional constitution to handle the weight of holding human lives in his hands. The residency application process brought new challenges and opportunities. Marcus's unique background, combined with his outstanding clinical performance, made him an attractive candidate for competitive emergency medicine programs. His application essays told a compelling story of transformation, while emphasizing his commitment to serving patients who often arrived at hospitals during their most vulnerable moments. Victoria provided guidance during the residency selection process, helping Marcus understand how to present his journey in ways that highlighted his strengths. But she was careful to remain in the background, knowing that his success needed to be his own achievement. The young man who had once worried about being worthy of her investment had evolved into someone whose confidence was built on demonstrated competence and genuine accomplishment. The match results arrived on a March morning that neither Marcus nor Victoria would ever forget. He had been accepted to his top choice, a prestigious emergency medicine residency at a major teaching hospital known for training physicians who went on to leadership roles in emergency care. The program specifically noted in their acceptance letter that they were impressed by his unique combination of technical skills, emotional intelligence, and unwavering commitment to patient care. As medical school graduation approached, both Marcus and Victoria reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment. The shy mechanic studying during his lunch break had become a confident physician in training, whose potential was recognized by the most demanding medical educators in the country. But perhaps more importantly, he had remained true to the values and character that had first impressed Victoria: the dedication to service, the genuine care for others, and the humble appreciation for opportunities to make a positive difference. The transformation was complete, but the real work of healing was just beginning. Residency in emergency medicine tested Marcus in ways that medical school could never have fully prepared him for, but it also revealed the extraordinary physician he was destined to become. The emergency department at Metropolitan General Hospital operated 24 hours a day as a gateway between life and death, hope and despair, healing and loss. Marcus entered this intense environment as a first-year resident, the most junior member of a team responsible for handling every medical crisis that walked or was carried through the hospital doors. The pressure was immense, the hours exhausting, and the emotional toll significant. Yet Marcus thrived in ways that impressed both his supervising physicians and his fellow residents. His mechanical background proved invaluable in unexpected ways throughout his residency training. When faced with complex trauma cases, Marcus approached each patient like a sophisticated system, requiring careful diagnosis and precise repair. His ability to remain calm while managing multiple variables simultaneously, skills honed through years of automotive troubleshooting, translated perfectly to emergency medicine's chaotic environment. Victoria watched from a respectful distance as Marcus navigated the challenges of residency. Their friendship had evolved into something deeper and more complex over the years. She was no longer just the wealthy benefactor who had made his dreams possible, but a trusted confidant who understood both his struggles and his aspirations. Their weekly conversations became anchors of normalcy in Marcus's demanding schedule, reminders that life existed beyond the hospital walls. During his second year of residency, Marcus encountered a case that would define his approach to emergency medicine for years to come. A young construction worker arrived at the emergency department with severe injuries from a workplace accident. The patient was conscious, but in critical condition, requiring immediate surgery and long-term rehabilitation. As Marcus worked to stabilize the patient, he saw something familiar in the man's eyes, the same determination and work ethic he remembered from his own days as a mechanic. The patient's family had no insurance and limited resources to cover the extensive medical care that would be required. Marcus found himself advocating not just for immediate treatment, but for long-term support that would give the patient the best chance of returning to productive life. He spent hours coordinating with social workers, insurance advocates, and charity care programs to ensure comprehensive treatment. His efforts went far beyond what was required of a resident, but they reflected the values that had shaped his entire journey. Victoria learned about this case through one of their regular conversations and was struck by how Marcus had internalized the lesson of her own generosity. He was using his position and growing influence to advocate for patients who needed more than just medical treatment. They needed someone to believe in their potential for recovery and return to meaningful life. The mechanic she had helped years earlier was now helping others in similar situations of need and vulnerability. As Marcus progressed through his residency, his reputation within the hospital grew steadily. Attending physicians began specifically requesting him for complex cases, knowing that his combination of technical skill and compassionate care would provide patients with the best possible outcomes. His fellow residents sought his advice on difficult diagnoses, recognizing his unique ability to see patterns that others missed. The transformation in Marcus's confidence was remarkable to observe. The young man who had once apologized for studying during his lunch break now commanded respect in medical conferences where he presented cases and treatment strategies to senior physicians. His presentations were clear, thorough, and demonstrated the kind of analytical thinking that distinguished exceptional doctors from merely competent ones. But success hadn't changed Marcus's fundamental character. He remained humble about his achievements, always crediting the support he had received and the opportunities he had been given. When colleagues praised his diagnostic abilities or patient care skills, he often mentioned the foundation that Victoria's investment had provided, and the lessons about dedication and service he had learned during his years as a mechanic. Victoria found profound satisfaction in watching Marcus's continued growth as both a physician and a person. The investment she had made years earlier was generating returns that couldn't be measured in dollars. They were measured in lives saved, families comforted, and medical crises resolved through Marcus's skilled intervention. As his residency neared completion, Marcus faced decisions about his future that would determine how he would use the extraordinary training he had received. The opportunities were abundant and varied, but the choice he ultimately made would reflect the values that had guided his entire journey from mechanic's toolbox to physician's stethoscope. As Marcus completed his residency and prepared to begin his career as a fully licensed emergency physician, he faced a decision that would define not only his professional future, but the kind of person he had chosen to become. Multiple job offers arrived from prestigious hospitals and medical centers across the country. Urban trauma centers offered high salaries and cutting-edge technology. Suburban hospitals promised comfortable working conditions and manageable caseloads. Academic medical centers extended invitations to combine clinical work with teaching and research opportunities that could lead to national recognition in emergency medicine. But the offer that captured Marcus's attention came from an unexpected source: Community General Hospital, located in the same neighborhood where he had once worked as a mechanic. The hospital served a predominantly working-class population, construction workers, mechanics, factory employees, and service industry workers who often lacked adequate health insurance and struggled to access quality medical care. Victoria was initially surprised by Marcus's interest in this position. After investing in the finest medical education available, she had expected him to pursue opportunities that matched his exceptional training and potential. When Marcus explained his reasoning, however, she understood that his choice reflected the deepest values that had originally impressed her. Marcus wanted to return to his community as someone who could make a real difference in the lives of people who reminded him of his former self. He had never forgotten what it felt like to worry about medical bills, to postpone necessary care due to cost, or to feel intimidated by healthcare systems that seemed designed for people with more resources and connections. His goal was to provide the kind of compassionate, excellent care that every patient deserved, regardless of their ability to pay. The emergency department at Community General presented challenges that tested every aspect of Marcus's training. The patient volume was high, the resources limited, and the cases often complicated by social factors that made treatment more difficult. But Marcus approached these challenges with the same methodical dedication he had once applied to automotive repairs and medical school examinations. His impact was immediate and remarkable. Patients noticed his extraordinary bedside manner, the way he took time to explain their conditions clearly, his patience with their fears and questions, and his genuine concern for their well-being that extended beyond immediate medical needs. Word spread through the community about the new emergency doctor who treated everyone with respect and provided excellent care without judgment. Victoria visited the hospital several months after Marcus began his new position, curious to see how he was adjusting to his role as an attending physician. What she witnessed exceeded even her highest expectations. Marcus had become a leader in the emergency department, respected by nurses, technicians, and fellow physicians for his clinical skills and admired by patients for his compassionate approach to care. During her visit, Victoria observed Marcus treating a young mechanic who had suffered severe burns in an automotive accident. The patient was frightened and in significant pain, worried about medical costs and time away from work. Marcus handled the case with exceptional skill, but what impressed Victoria most was how he connected with the patient on a personal level. He spoke about his own background as a mechanic, explaining treatment options in terms the patient could understand, and personally coordinated with social services to address the financial concerns. The scene reminded Victoria of their first meeting years earlier, but with roles dramatically reversed. Marcus was now the one providing expert care and compassionate support to someone facing a crisis that extended far beyond immediate medical needs. The circle had closed in the most beautiful way possible. Marcus had also begun implementing innovative programs at Community General that reflected his unique perspective and commitment to comprehensive patient care. He established a follow-up clinic for emergency department patients who lacked primary care physicians, ensuring that acute treatments led to continued wellness rather than repeated crisis interventions. He created partnerships with local businesses to provide health education and preventive care services directly in workplace settings. These initiatives caught the attention of medical administrators and healthcare policy experts throughout the region. Marcus was invited to speak at conferences about community-centered emergency medicine, sharing strategies that other hospitals began adopting. His approach demonstrated that excellent medical care and social responsibility could work together to create better outcomes for both patients and healthcare systems. Victoria watched with pride as Marcus received recognition for his innovative work, but she was most impressed by how success hadn't changed his fundamental character. He remained the same humble, dedicated person she had first encountered, someone who used his abilities and opportunities to lift others rather than simply advancing his own career. The friendship between Victoria and Marcus had evolved into something rare and precious, a relationship based on mutual respect, shared values, and the profound satisfaction of seeing good work well done. They had both been transformed by their connection, discovering that the greatest investments yield returns that can't be measured in traditional terms. As Marcus continued to build his reputation as both an exceptional physician and a community leader, the impact of Victoria's original investment multiplied exponentially. Every life he saved, every patient he comforted, every medical crisis he resolved represented a return on her generosity that would continue generating benefits for decades to come. The mechanic studying during his lunch break had become exactly what Victoria had seen in him from the beginning. Someone with the potential to make an extraordinary difference in the world. Someone who needed only opportunity to transform not just his own life, but the lives of countless others who would benefit from his skill, compassion, and dedication to service. 5 years after Marcus had established himself as one of the most respected emergency physicians in the city, Victoria received a phone call that would mark the beginning of their most ambitious collaboration yet. Marcus had been thinking about the conversation that had changed his life, and he wanted to create a way to extend similar opportunities to others who possessed potential but lacked resources. His idea was ambitious yet simple: establish a foundation that would identify and support promising individuals from working-class backgrounds who dreamed of careers in healthcare but faced financial barriers to education. Victoria was immediately intrigued by the proposal, but what impressed her most was Marcus's insistence that the foundation operate as a partnership rather than her solo venture. He wanted to contribute not just his time and expertise, but also a significant portion of his own income to support other dreamers. The mechanic she had helped years earlier was now prepared to become a benefactor himself, understanding that true success meant creating opportunities for others to achieve their own extraordinary transformations. The Sterling Rodriguez Foundation for Healthcare Education launched with a mission that reflected both founders' values: identifying individuals with exceptional character, dedication, and potential who needed only financial support to pursue careers in medicine, nursing, emergency services, and related healthcare fields. The selection criteria emphasized not just academic achievement, but demonstrated commitment to serving others and overcoming personal challenges. Their first scholarship recipient was Maria Santos, a certified nursing assistant who had been caring for her disabled mother while studying for her registered nurse licensing exams during whatever free time she could find. Like Marcus years earlier, Maria possessed obvious intelligence and dedication, but lacked the financial resources to complete her education without working full-time to support her family. Victoria and Marcus personally interviewed Maria, and both immediately recognized the same qualities that had connected them years earlier: genuine compassion, unwavering determination, and the kind of character that suggested she would use her opportunities wisely and well. The foundation covered her tuition, living expenses, and even arranged for professional care assistance for her mother, allowing Maria to focus entirely on her nursing education. The foundation's impact grew rapidly as word spread through healthcare communities about the unique support it provided. Unlike traditional scholarships that offered partial funding, the Sterling Rodriguez Foundation provided comprehensive support that addressed all barriers to educational success. Recipients could focus entirely on their studies without the financial stress that often derailed promising students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Marcus took personal responsibility for mentoring foundation recipients, understanding that financial support alone wasn't sufficient for success. He met regularly with scholarship students, providing guidance on study strategies, career planning, and the emotional challenges of transitioning from working-class backgrounds to professional healthcare roles. His own journey gave him unique credibility and insight that no traditional academic advisor could provide. Victoria discovered that supporting multiple students simultaneously created a satisfaction even deeper than her original investment in Marcus. Each success story reinforced her belief that the most meaningful use of wealth involved identifying and nurturing human potential. The foundation became her primary focus, more engaging and fulfilling than any business venture she had ever pursued. 3 years after its establishment, the foundation had supported 47 students through various healthcare education programs. The success rate was remarkable. Over 90% completed their programs successfully and went on to careers in healthcare service. Many followed Marcus's example by choosing positions that prioritized community service over maximum income, creating a multiplying effect of compassionate care throughout the region. The 10th anniversary of Marcus and Victoria's first meeting was celebrated not with a private dinner, but with the Foundation's annual Scholarship Award ceremony. Over 200 people gathered to honor new recipients and celebrate the achievements of program graduates. Marcus spoke about his journey from mechanic to physician, emphasizing that success belonged not just to individuals, but to communities that supported and believed in each other. Victoria's speech that evening reflected on the profound lesson she had learned, that the greatest wealth came not from accumulating resources, but from using them to create opportunities for others to achieve their highest potential. The investment she had made in one mechanic's education had generated returns beyond anything she could have imagined, not just in Marcus's individual success, but in the dozens of healthcare professionals who were now serving their communities because someone had believed in their potential. As the ceremony concluded and guests mingled in celebration, Victoria and Marcus stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. They looked up at the same stars that had witnessed their first meeting years earlier, when a wealthy woman in an orange dress had encountered a dedicated young man studying medical textbooks in a parking lot. The mechanic had become a doctor. The lonely entrepreneur had found purpose, and together they had created a legacy that would continue transforming lives for generations to come. Their story proved that kindness, when combined with opportunity and genuine human connection, possessed the power to change not just individual destinies, but entire communities. In the end, the Ferrari repair had been the least important part of their story. What mattered was the recognition that every person possessed unique potential, waiting for the right moment, the right support, and the right belief to flourish into something extraordinary. The foundation they built together would ensure that such moments of recognition and support would continue to occur, creating an endless cycle of transformation that began with a simple act of generosity and grew into a movement that changed the world, one dream at a time. Their friendship had become a testament to the profound truth that the most valuable investments aren't measured in returns to the investor, but in the positive changes they create in the lives of others. The mechanic and the millionaire had discovered that when people with different resources and backgrounds unite around shared values of service and compassion, they can achieve far more together than either could accomplish alone. The stars that night seemed to shine a little brighter, illuminating a future filled with young dreamers who would soon discover that their potential was seen, valued, and supported by a foundation built on the belief that everyone deserves the chance to transform their dreams into reality. If you enjoyed this amazing story, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below, telling us where you're watching from and what time it is in your city. Your participation is essential for us to keep bringing stories that touch the heart. See you next time.